Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of Smart Brain Insights podcast. And today we have a very special guest all the way from South Africa, Mr. Deon Badenhorst. Deon, are you around?
I'm around. Thank you very much, Edith. Edith, thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for the great opportunity to have you. It's not every day that we can have people who has experience in the field of working with neuroagility and that has done a great work both in education and in corporate and with individuals. I really appreciate your time. When we're doing this podcast, we're trying to really bring to the forefront people who really had the boots in the ground and that have proven in their practice the success that neuroagility can bring to other people's life. So today, Deon, I would like to focus on a couple of things. First, in your experience in education, and obviously, before we even get to that topic, tell me about how neuroagility has transformed your personal life first.
Okay, thank you, Edith. Me and my wife is both involved in our company, Neuroworx, and we have applied neuroagility for the last 20 years already in our corporate world of work, as well as my wife that came from education. And we have started our own business 5 years ago, where we focus full-time on helping people to discover more, to realize more, to find purpose. And it's really a question of opening that door for young people and for students to know there's more.
And when we're talking to students, what ages are they, Deon?
Yeah, we focus on primary school from in our terms, is from grade 4 to grade 7. Then high school is grade 8 to 12. And then also your university students. So those are the three areas that we basically focus. So it's from the age of 10 that we accommodate in our programs.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Normally we start around 12. So this is a little bit earlier for my knowledge. This is great because the earlier we can start, the better work we can do with them. So yeah. Let's dive deeper a little bit. First of all, I can not only imagine how many students' life you and your wife has transformed. And I find fascinating, what did you find most commonly at that age, and what are the typical programs that you work with? So tell me more about the programs.
Yeah, what we find, especially in South Africa, that to move from grade 3 to grade 4 is quite a big jump. In grade 4, it's more independent. It's more first time that you really start studying, that you're writing tests and exams. So it's quite a stressful period for the parents as well. But really, this is the ideal age for learners to start learning in the right way from the start. So it's a real benefit of privilege to really to set the ground when you start working with grade 4 or 10-year-old learners. And the benefit of starting in the right way from scratch, I think, is setting the tone for the rest of your school career. Mm-hmm. So for us, that's the ideal age.
And what makes from 3rd grade to 4th grade such a big jump that you feel that is so different, other than being more independent? Is that what you said?
Yeah, grade 1 to 3 is very protective type of environment, and grade 4. You start moving between classes. There's different teachers that present different subjects. So that's already a major jump. And then also the whole thing about writing tests, preparing for exams, writing exams, studying basically for the first time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I can see that transition. You know, that's very interesting, Deon, because I never saw school that way. You just make me aware of, yeah, this is what I survived personally. I went from 3rd grade to 4th grade too. And just
it's quite a jump.
Yes,
quite a jump.
We don't realize those things that are happening in the student's life, and how neuroagility can really help. Tell me more about what kind of interventions you do, you and your wife do with the students at that age.
Okay, we do the NAP assessment. So each student receives the 32-page neuroagility profile, and you're familiar with the content. That's very comprehensive. And for parents, that's the biggest eye-opener to realize and to understand my child's unique wiring, his uniqueness, basically. And for us, that's the foundation from where we start to build all the extra skills. So that's the first step. And the second step, we also developed a study skill course that we present for the parent and the child. They need to be there together. And that's a 5-hour study skill course that we present. And that start with feedback on the profile and then include a lot of techniques. We call it tricks to study easier. So really, for us, it's important to make it extremely practical. So it's not just to sit and listen. They need to do. So they work through a manual and they work through practical skills. Yeah, that's in short.
Deon, you said it right. I know a lot about the neuroagility profile when it comes to students, young adults, and adults. However, maybe not all our audience might be aware of it. Please bring to the conversation some of those elements that you find on the profile. What is it that is measures that you can then explain to the student and the parents, because you're doing that debriefing, what is in there that they can use for their benefit?
Yes. Edith, the profile consists out of 2 areas. The one is the 6 drivers, 6 factors that determine your neurological design, and then also the 6 drivers that improve performance. Those are the 2 legs. And then we also add to that the 9 intelligence preferences at the end. So that's all included in the NAP profile. That's part of Neurolink's products that they do have available. But if you go into the detail, the 6 neurological factors focus on lateral dominance, left brain, right brain preference, expressive, receptive, rational, emotional, that combination. And then we also identify the 4 quadrants in terms of your communication, reasoning, thinking patterns. But what parents find extremely interesting is the senses, the dominant senses. Are you a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner? Which way do you prefer to process information? And then we also identify the dominant ear, eye, and hand, because that dominance is normally taking the lead. But what we also find is as soon as stress enters the picture, it's influencing those dominant preferences. And there's certain things that's happening and also can be quite challenging in terms of learning. So those are the 6 neurological factors. And then on the 6 drivers, we focus on brain fitness or brain agility. We focus on stress, your stress measurement, your learning environment, your attitude, your learning skills, and then also eating habits. So it's comprehensive. It's a lot of information to share with parents, but this really opened up a new world for them. So it provided a lot of insight. At least I understand my child's preference a lot better. And from there, we can start building on the type of skills that I need in terms of studying.
Yes, I can only imagine how impactful is for parents to learn the design of their children, but also learn how stress is affecting those factors. As for example, one of the things that brought me to Neurolink and to use the neuroagility profile was when 15 years ago, Andre did this test as a demo for me, and we discovered that I was lefty or dominant, and I will lead my information processing with my left hemisphere. And now we know that if the senses are in the same side of the hemisphere under stress, that can cause what we call a hindrance.
That's right.
Yes. So on the high level of stress, folks, what happened is that you start like dimming a little bit the neurological connection, and it makes difficult for us to process what we hear, because the left ear focuses more on the sounds, etc. So for me, having background noises, having interruptions, or people who are not, makes me repeat, would be very difficult to handle. It still is, by the way, it hasn't changed, except that now I can process with, thanks to neuroplasticity, I can process with leading with the right side. And that really helped me a lot when it comes
Yes.
to emotional intelligence, because I was triggering and I couldn't even understand why. But
Yeah.
then once I learned that, I said, geez, this was like a whole discovery behind that. And most people don't even know what their right ear, whether their right ear or left ear dominance, or what are their eye dominants. Some of them might if they have difficulties with visual, but for the most part, people are unaware. They're walking around unaware of how they process information. Well,
That's right.
I can only assume that having the child learning this early, the shifting in their study habits and the relationship with mom and dad would be completely different. Now,
Absolutely.
tell me about a specific case that you still remember today because it was so mind blowing to you.
Yeah. Edith, I just want to add, remember, me as a parent have my own preference, my own style. And in many cases, it's not the same for my child. So I try to understand and teach my child in the way that I've done, and it's not working. And cause a lot of frustration. And also for parents to realize the impact of stress on your brain, because we also say that stress is the brain's biggest enemy, and to understand that and help your child to manage that. But you get that aha moment so often when you give feedback to parents, that the parent will tell me, we studied last night till what time? I know my child knows his work, he's well prepared. But when the results came, it's not saying that. What's happening? What's in between? Is it a difficult teacher? Is there something wrong in the class? What's happening there? And then that aha moment to understand, my goodness, there's a hindrance that I were not aware of that's causing my child not to perform. That's actually stealing from my child. So now that I've got that insight, I can help him and prepare. And that's where we start touching on neuro-agility and brain fitness and all of that. But what I would like to add as well, which is we find extremely interesting, we work with many schools. And in some of the schools also allow us to work with the teachers to do the assessment on the teachers as well. And a common remark that we've got is that I'm teaching for the last 20 years. Nobody ever shared this with me. And that's coming from teachers. And if I say that's happening more, quite a lot, that they will say, the comment will be, nobody ever told me about this.
Wow.
So it's so satisfying to share this with teachers, because I'm presenting my class from my preference. So if I'm very expressive, if I'm visual, my whole lecture will be aligned according to that. But I sometimes forget that in front of me are auditory and kinesthetic learners that I might miss because of my preference. So that insight is very satisfying for us. Yeah.
Fantastic. And it's interesting because, I do remember when I was studying my PhD, I do remember going into different types of learning. Even if you're just a trainer, they teach you about all the things. We just don't necessarily have the awareness of preparing presentations differently, because we feel like one way is good, that all adults likes to interact. In my world, I work more with adults, and
Yes.
all adults like to engage in exercises, and that's not necessarily right all the time. So
Yes.
accommodating that diversity of learners and caring so everybody gets a piece of the pie and take something away from the learning event is so important. But going back to the children at this stage, because I like to see different moments, when they're in that stage. And then maybe I want to discuss college students, because now they're deciding career. So
Yes.
Stay tuned for the next episode. We might not have time today, but if we don't, we'll do it on the next episode. One of the things that is fascinating for me too is for parents to get educated in this type of information. And I realized that some parents are more a seeker of, let me know more about how I can help my child, and others are completely unaware that the brain exists, even if
Yes.
they're having one
Yes.
with them. So
Yes.
what did you find in terms of parents when you had to do this kind of work? How do you approach them and help them be cognizant of the benefits that having this work can do for their children?
Yeah. What we find worked well is we have information sessions at schools, especially during parent evenings, where we share this content to give them insight. So from there, just to realize, because we have got a slideshow that takes them through the content, and just to realize there's actually a lot more that I'm not aware of, and that's influencing my child. So my child can only benefit from this. At this stage, we've got some schools that even start budgeting to accommodate us every year. So there's some schools that we are doing it for the last 5 years. For example, all the grade 4s, the whole group of 200 grade 4s, and it's part of their budget. So they make us part of their program, the annual program. And for us, that's first prize. That's so rewarding, because there's some parents and some children that might not be able to afford this. That's not actually losing out. But schools that offer this opportunity to all the grade 4s, for example, it's wonderful. So all the children get the exposure and can benefit from the process. And something else that I can just add, where we work with teachers as well, that combination is a win-win, because now the teacher understands, the child understands, and the parent understands. We all talk the same language. That's the ideal situation. And we also experience the best results in that circumstance, where all the parties are involved and understand, talking the language.
Yeah, that is phenomenal, because it's not only because I can see parents doing this on the side and not necessarily in the school system, but when the student goes into the class, if the teacher is not prepared to cater to that type of learner, it becomes another challenge, right? And
That's
then
right.
if the teacher is doing it but not the parents are aware, then that becomes another set of challenges. And one of the things that brings to mind now is how many children are diagnosed with attention deficit, or being, or having just bad discipline in the school, when in reality their thirst for learning is slightly different from the traditional student as we know it. Left dominance with all the sensors in the right side, the very traditional type that is
Yes.
trying to be lectured than the rest. So what is your experience with those cases?
Yeah. Edith, for us, that's quite sensitive. A lot of children are labeled and diagnosed. But we also realize in many cases, some of those children might only be kinesthetic learners. They prefer to learn through movement. So they're not hyperactive. It's not fair to give them all those labels, because they are actually only kinesthetic learners. My own son is 70% kinesthetic. So it's quite a challenge for us as parents, because he can't sit still. You need to move in order to learn. Initially, we was quite confused because we thought something was wrong. But this really opened up a new world for us to understand there's nothing wrong. You just need to move in order to process, in order to learn, in order to understand. So, and it's quite challenging because he's busy. He's throwing the ball against the wall while he's saying the work loud. So it's quite challenging, but we incorporate all the techniques to accommodate him in that way. And he went through school, he went through university without any medication, any labeling. So in his case, he was only a kinesthetic learner. Okay. But research also showed 2 out of 10 learners need medication. But that's 2 out of 10. We work at schools where 60% of a class is on medication. So yeah, the other challenge in South Africa especially is the size of the classes. There's between 35 and 40 children in one class. And then it's quite difficult for a teacher to accommodate all the different learning styles. And we really do understand that. It's getting very difficult. And especially if you've got a kinesthetic learner that's active, that's busy. Yeah, it's really testing you as a teacher. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, yes. Yes, I would like to hear more about how they can accommodate once they learn about the program, really how they try to diversify their teaching to meet somewhere every type of student in their preference, right? That's quite interesting, you know, what they can do in the classroom. What are some of the things that you see teachers adapting in the learning modes?
Yeah.
Or the teaching mode in this case.
Yeah, what we find, there's a couple of things. Kinesthetic learners need to sit in the back of the class, not in front. The mistake that we make is because the child is busy, we put him next to the desk, so he's close at hand. But actually, they need to sit in the back of the class where they don't disturb anyone else, and we allow them to move. What we also suggest to parents is to move, to use the Pilates ball, those big balls, rather to sit on that and take the chair away. Because if you sit on that, there's movement all the time. Think about a stress ball or even press stick, to play with press stick, as long as we allow him to be busy, to be active while he's processing information. And also to take a break every now and again. Kinesthetic learners have natural energy, so there need to be some way to get rid of this energy. So if you want to send somebody to go and pick something up or send a letter or drop something off, make use of these kinesthetic learners, because they need that activity to get some release on that energy that they've got. Yeah.
Yes, actually, it's not uncommon for trainers in adult to have, you know, fidgeting toys and things like that for those who just need to have their hands busy at least when they're learning. Right. Yes, fantastic, fantastic information. Deon, we're almost at the end of the episode. We actually going a little bit over what we normally do, but this is such a fascinating topic. Let's make sure we continue this conversation in our next episode. Thank you for being here, and stay tuned. So we will bring another episode with Deon talking about education and the corporate world actual applications. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you again.